Good morning. You're here with the Council Magazine, and I'm interviewing Councilman Amador of the Ironbound section. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing terrific. I get up very early in the morning, around 6:30, and by 9 o'clock, even before 9 o'clock, I'm at my office every day. I've done this for the last 17 and a half years, and I'll continue to do this until I leave office.
Definitely a strong man. Well, I'm here to ask you a few questions about what's taking place in the Ironbound section, the business community in the Ironbound section, and a few of your initiatives. Question one, sir. In 2014, a new hotel opened in the Ironbound section of Newark. How will this impact the economic environment?
Well, it was supposed to open Carvey Hotel, actually. Unfortunately, the operator of the hotel, which was a gentleman from New York, decided to walk out of the project, and they had to look for another operator. I'm happy to mention that the owners of the property have signed an agreement with one of the top operators of hotels in the world from Europe, and they are in the process of finalizing the deal. And actually, I was trying to contact PSG right now because we need to do certain things, not only related to the hotel, but also to across the street from the hotel, where 62 market rate apartments are going to be built. So the hotel plan is still going strong. We will do everything to make sure that the hotel is built, which will benefit tremendously not only the Ironbound but also the city of Newark.
Definitely, I agree with that. So, what is the expected date? Probably sometime in 2016.
Sometime in the spring of 2016, we expect that the construction of the hotel will start. They will modify the plan a little bit to include a couple more rooms. The size of the hotel in terms of the building will not change at all. Nothing will change from the original plan, besides the increase on the number of rooms, which will be another 5 or 6.
Okay, definitely. That sounds progressive. Question 2. Do you agree with Dale Rusakoff's book, The Prize? How he explains what happened to the $100 million donated to Newark school system by Mark Zuckerberg?
To tell you frankly, I didn't read the piece by Rusakoff's. However, if it is a negative piece, I do agree with them. We're looking at a system that where, from what I understand, the majority of the $100 million was spent for consultants and other entities that have nothing to do with benefiting the education of our youngsters in the city of Newark. Here we are continuing to face tremendous problems in the school system, and we basically wasted $100 million from Zuckerberg. I remember clearly on the night before, the former mayor, went to Chicago to accept the $100 million donation from Zuckerberg, that he called me and he said, "I'm very excited. I have to go to Chicago to accept $100 million from Zuckerberg, and the governor is going to be there at the Oprah show." And I reminded him of one simple thing at the time, that the Ironbound didn't have the new schools. Most of the schools in the Ironbound were built in the 1800s. They're more than 141 years old. And I reminded of that, and he basically told me that he was going to mention to the governor, and he was going to put some pressure on the governor to make sure that some of that money would be going into the construction of schools and so on. Well, that didn't happen, as everybody knows. So the majority of the money was spent on consultants, did not benefit the youngsters or the system at all in the city of Newark. And here we are a few years later, and we're still crying about how we spent the money, how we wasted the money.
Definitely. So, that's, everyone has their debate or take on that. But then we have the facts. So. Next question, Councilman. The Portuguese parade was very successful in 2015. What is the secret to creating a diverse event without violence?
There is no secret to it. It's very obvious that if you put a project together that is supported by the families, entire families, I think ultimately, it may take a while, but I think ultimately it's going to pay off.
Yes.
The Portuguese parade and festival in 2015 is a reflection of the changes that have been going on for the last 3 or 4 years. And right now, the image of the parade and the image of the festival is that it is a family-oriented type of festival. It is a family-oriented type of parade. And everyone, all the families in the state of New Jersey and outside of the state of New Jersey are welcome to partake on the festivities for the entire weekend. And I'm happy to say that the craziness of the past and the bad image that the parade and the festival used to have in the past is gone. And we now see entire families walking on Ferry Street and walking all over the place, going into restaurants, listening to music, buying stuff, and having a good time instead of the craziness of the past.
The atmosphere merry and friendly, that's great.
Yes.
Definitely. Next question. The repaving of Ferry Street is great for the community. What is the history of Ferry Street and how does it impact businesses in the Ironbound section?
I've always considered, from the first day that I've been in office since 1998, I always considered Ferry Street to be the welcoming mat of the entire community. It's a very strong commercial area, and to me, it reflects the image of the entire community. So, taking care of Ferry Street, as we began to do a few years ago, about 10 years ago, when we decided to create the Ironbound Business Improvement District, was the second of its kind in the city of Newark. The first one was the Central Business District. The second one was the Ironbound Business Improvement District. I was lucky at that time that we were able to find $1.5 million that began the process of changing Ferry Street, changing the image of Ferry Street. And right now, if you walk into the street, it's not up to the point that we would like to see it, but it's already much better than it was in the past. Not only with the repaving, but also with the lighting, signage, and so on. And we're moving into the direction of creating some implement some security measures that will improve the quality of life of those folks who not only have stores, but also those who come to the Ironbound into Ferry Street to shop.
Definitely, I agree. Creating a secure environment is always healthy. Next question. I see that you're civically engaged. How do you feel about your annual community toy and coat drive?
One of the things that I say that every local politics is local, and to me, the perception that we all have that politicians are not connected with the people in the community. To me, it's the beginning of the downfall of those folks who are involved in politics. And for the last 18 years, I've been extremely connected to the community, continue to be extremely connected to the community. We not only have a toy and coat drive that is extremely successful for those who need our help, but we also have the Walk for the Cure, we have Kids Day, we have back to school days, we have the Christmas and toy drives. We have the Thanksgiving dinners for the entire community, where we have about 500 or 600 people coming into a large hall, and we have volunteers who serve them, and including myself and my family. So it's a way of keeping connected to the community. We can't neglect that. I always say that politics is a daily effort, and if you neglect that, you're bound to fail.
Yes. You must stay a servant of the people.
Mm-hmm.
That may sound cliche-ish, but in order to be a great leader.
No, I sincerely believe in that.
Definitely. All right, next question, Councilman. You participated in a meeting to create a citywide pedestrian and bicycle plan. What is the purpose of the plan, and how will the business community benefit?
The purpose of the plan is very simple, is to attempt to attract people to come and live in the community. And one of the purposes is to bring in more younger and vibrant people. The bike plan is, I made a statement not too long ago saying that I want to make the Ironbound the bike capital of the state of New Jersey eventually. And I sincerely believe that's going to take place. I even joke with my friends from the North Ward, where they claim that there's been some complaints about the bike lanes in the North Ward, and I say, bring them to the East Ward, we'll take care of that. We will accept them there. So it's a way of being creative in order to attract more people to come to live and work in the Ironbound. And the bike plan is precisely goes along those lines.
We're good to go, still rolling.
I think we're at number 7.
Yes. Next question, Councilman. How do you feel about the Police Complaint Review Board created by the mayor?
I don't have any problems with that. I think to a certain extent it's necessary because of the fact that we need to evolve. The culture of the police department and the culture in the city of Newark needs to evolve constantly. And the more involvement that we have on the part of the residents of the city in matters such as the police, the better we can respond to the complaints that we have from our citizens. We shouldn't leave the resolution of those complaints just to the structure of the police department. That belongs to the entire, to the residents of the city of Newark primarily. And I think that's a good idea, as long as it falls within the guidelines, the decent and common sense guidelines that we need to have.
Definitely, I agree with that. Next question, Councilman. It seems that double parking is very rampant in the Ironbound section, of Newark. Is there a specific reason why it is so rampant?
Well, it is rampant because of the fact that the Ironbound is very congested, first of all. It's a place where a lot of people go to shop. If you drive by Ferry Street and the adjacent streets to Ferry Street, you see cars in double park on those adjacent streets to Ferry Street. But it is also part of a culture that we need to do away with. The culture is basically that we sometimes prefer to double park a car rather than pay $5 to put the car in the parking lot. And we need to do away with that stuff. We have been successful in doing away with parking on sidewalks and like we used to do, we used to be worse than this. And we need to continue to work and enforce the laws in order not to allow people to get away with double parking. And it appalls me, for example, that on Madison Street, alongside of a restaurant, if I drive by and I see cars in double park, I look over to my right and I see a parking lot, and the parking lot is basically empty. However, there's cars in double park. I find that as amusing,
Yes.
first of all. Second, appalling, and that should be done with completely.
Yes, individuals do not want to pay for parking.
Right. It's part of the culture of the community.
Definitely. Evolution must take place. I
Yep.
agree with that. Next question, Councilman. What advice do you have for neo-Americans on how to be successful in America, in education and in entrepreneurship?
I don't have much advice. I often say that human beings are creatures of study, and what I mention sometimes is that if you see something that is successful, emulate it, reproduce it. I often say that the success, for example, of the Ironbound and the way the Ironbound turned out to be is the result of a lot of good work done by a lot of people. And what I suggest to my colleagues and to everyone else outside of the Ironbound is that do not reinvent the wheel. It's there, look at it, why it was successful, why it is successful, reproduce it throughout the entire city of Newark. And that's my advice to the new, so-called new Americans that are coming into our community.
Yeah.
Hard work,
Yes.
primarily hard work. Second, respect for those who have been responsible for the building of the community. That's important. And again, try to emulate whatever has been done properly.
I agree. Final question, Councilman. What initiatives do you promote in your community to keep the Ironbound business community evolving?
Information, it's important.
Information.
Every time we have, from time to time, I do a presentation on the various projects that are coming to the Ironbound, coming to the East Ward. And I'm going to do one on October the 22nd. I'm going to make a presentation to the business community about the different types of projects that are going on, be it housing projects, be it hotel, and so on. So on the 22nd of October, we're going to invite not only the business community, but also community leaders to be present and to witness a presentation that I'm going to make about the different types of projects that are coming into the community. I did one about 4 or 5 months ago that was sponsored by Connect One Bank and was extremely well received. I talked not only about the business ventures that are coming into the community, apartment buildings, whatever, but I also talk about the different kinds of things that are going on that are reflective of the quality of life of the community, such as the building of new schools. We're in the process of getting a major health clinic open at the old St. James Hospital, and I worked extremely hard for that. We're working very hard to get to make sure that the Ironbound Stadium reopens, gets cleaned up, and reopens after close to 30 years of being shut down because of contamination. Hayes Park East is being built. Those are the kinds of issues that the community needs to know about in order to be informed, especially the business community. I often say that if you bring a business to the Ironbound, but if you don't know what's going on in the Ironbound, you're bound to fail, because a strong residential community is the foundation of a strong business community. You can't have one without the other.
I agree.
So I continue to work very hard to make sure that the quality of life of the community is strong, is there, so the business community continues to be successful. And that's the message that I give to the business community.
Thank you for allowing the Council Magazine to have this interview with you, Councilman Amador. And the Council Magazine looks forward to doing this again sometime in the near future. And
Thank
good
you.
luck in your future endeavors, sir.
Thank you.